Welcome to Streaming Bullets, presented by Mr. Orange. My name is Mr. Orange, and today we talk about the Chinese games market. So guys, it's very important to know that actually recently Steam was opening up much more for the Chinese market too. And here on the screen you see one of the big players, so Tencent Holding Limited. But if you look a little bit at the stock, you're going to see that the stock lost from its all-time high 43% today, and was even dropping today again 4%. So what was going on behind of this? So that's very important to know. So therefore I found a very interesting article. The article is by Nico Partners, so that's a firm that is analyzing the Chinese business stock market, and writes a lot of reports about games industry in China. And maybe I just want to read out here the summary. So the summary is, well, let's say Chinese temporary game approval freeze. And then they answer the questions what actually happened there. So I put you a link to this article in the description of the video, so you can easily read this yourself. So, but the conclusion is important to highlight. So it is important to know that despite the temporary game approval freeze, so if you don't know what the game approval freeze in China is, I'm talking about this in some minutes, the demand for gamers has not decreased at all. In fact, the games industry has continued to see growth, albeit it at a slower rate than during the same period last year. Hit legacy titles continue to perform well, and larger companies have been able to launch brand new successful games that were approved prior to the freeze. Whilst it's unclear when the SAPP will complete its reform and start game approvals again, we do expect to see a rebound in the China games market when this happens, as new games are approved and released. Very important to know. So they see a rebound in the China's games market, and then we might see also a rebound in Tencent Holding, so in the stock at the moment, which massively dropped. You can only say this little disclaimer. I'm not a financial advisor. This is just a personal opinion. This is for informational purpose only. So don't make up your own mind. That's very important. And I'm also an investor in Tencent Holding Limited. Therefore, let's talk about some other interesting news I read. So I read interesting news on PC Gamer. I also put you the link in the description of the video. I read very interesting news about how successful Steam is now in China. So Steam surpasses 30 million users now in China. And this is according to Nico Partners. I was just showing you this website. And the analyst Daniel Ahmad, so that's this guy. So he's an analyst, tweet about video games industry analyst at Nico Partners, covering the digital games market in China and Southeast Asia. I recommend you to follow him. Very, very interesting what he writes. So he has a lot of insights in the market. So on PC Gamer is then written that the platform's popularity initially arose out of Dota 2. He explained, and they're referring to Daniel Ahmad on Twitter, but has grown since then thanks to more localized games, regional pricing, local payment methods, and a wide variety of games banned, blocked in China. So I'm sure you also saw a lot of new so-called Chinese games or games by Chinese developers, where you also think these games are actually made more for the population of Chinese game or interested people in Chinese games. So, and then the large domestic audience has in turn helped Chinese indie developers achieve success on Steam. They quote an Ahmed, and then the Scroll of Taiwu, for example, sold more than 600 units on Steam, while Chinese parents, this is a game where then Chinese parents raise a child and send it to university, etc. So the Chinese State Council issued recommendations that will make it easier and not as lengthy. So that's the new Chinese State Council for internet cafes, and game companies to set up business in the country, and it's a positive sign to see the promotion of new gaming entity creation amid a tough regulatory environment. So that's what we have seen, the tough regulatory environment. So that's what you can read here. So the temporary game approval freeze by the State Administration of Press, Publication, Radio, Film and Television. So all of this is written in different tweets of Daniel Ahmad. So you can see it here in his, you can read it on his Twitter. So Ahmad summarized then the current situation. That's what I was showing you here, and then he says this, what I was the conclusion that I just read out to you. So nonetheless, Chinese crackdown on games has taken a significant toll on one of the country's gaming giants, Tencent, and then 40% since January 2018, so around 230 billion in market value. So that's what you can see here. It's incredible how much market value has been gone or left Tencent since 2018. So very, very interesting, and I think so here's interesting to read the reasons for the temporary game approval freeze that happened for new games in China. So a lot of games are in the pipeline and are not approved yet. So but Nico Partners, the analyst, writes that it's mostly affecting small gaming studios and not the big gaming studios, and also the big gaming studios still have a lot of games approved, and they can monetize other games they are already on the market. So, and it's also mostly referred to games in the poker and gambling world, so where a lot of issues are. So in the Ministry of Education notice also 3 recommendations to the gaming industry. So they want to strengthen the current regulation to limit the amount of time that minors can play a game online, and second, to investigate the implementation of an age rating system for games, as something we already have in Europe or in the US, and then they want to limit the number of new online games that are approved for distribution. So there they are much more referring to poker games and gambling games. So that's written here. You can read this in this article. So what is the impact of the temporary game approval freeze? The Nico Partners write, we believe that smaller developers and publishers will be most affected by this freeze, as they rely on short development cycles and quick releases to stay afloat. The first major impact that we see happening is faster consolidation of the market, as small and medium-sized game publishers are unable to release new games, maintain engagement across legacy titles, and account for new regulatory changes. We expect to see a number of smaller companies go out of business or merge with larger publishers, so that's actually in favor of Tencent, I would say. However, most large companies are able to offset the impact, so large companies like Tencent or NetEase, the impact of the temporary game approval freeze through other ways, such as nurturing the existing commercial active titles. Larger companies also have longer development cycles, meaning they can start the approval process earlier. Most of the games launched by Tencent and NetEase during the first half of 2018 were approved during 2017. Tencent also has around a dozen games in the pipeline that have already been approved, which means that it can launch these games during the rest of the year. Another major impact is that the tough regulatory environment in China is forcing many game publishers to look overseas for success, so they're going actually also to Europe and to the US. A number of Chinese game companies now focus more on exports than on the domestic market. Chinese companies are also developing games with global players in mind to help find success and help offset some of the impact from the temporary game approval freeze in the domestic market. So Tencent also, for this reason, bought stakes in Activision. Tencent has stakes in Epic. So they profit also from a lot of those games that are sold in the US or in Europe. So, but then also then the smaller game companies, the smaller Chinese game companies now publishing more games that are also maybe more interesting for Western players. So they bring them out in Europe or in the US than on Steam, and therefore we've seen a lot of new Chinese games now on Steam recently. But you also see, on the other hand, a lot of this typical comic styled games on Steam. So it's a very interesting development. So and then here you can read why the changes happened to this authority with the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China. So very interesting opinion here. And then the reasons why games were freezed in China, why the administrative process takes so long. It's a very interesting development, and I would say check out those links. I'm putting them in the description of my video. So I'm putting the Nico Partners link there, and a link for PC Gamer, and also a link to the Twitter analyst Daniel Ahmad. And I think he's definitely worth to be followed, since he has a lot of very interesting information about the gaming industry in Asia, and I'm sure that he can actually help us to make more reasonable, rational decisions when it comes also to Chinese gaming stocks, and especially to better understand the Chinese gaming market. So as I said, I'm just a YouTuber, not a financial advisor, so make up your own mind. I'm not recommending to buy any stock in China, so of course you just read yourself what you can find to this. But it's very interesting to see how the stock Tencent Holding Limited developed. So, and earlier this day I was talking about Activision-Blizzard, and now you see that's the end of the day chart. So the closing was now at 71.81. So actually under the price where I bought it, so 8%, 8.29% down. So very interesting to see where Activision actually is going. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I could give you some insights into the Chinese gaming industry. I'm also very new on this field, so I'm trying to read more myself, read more into it. So but I guess it's very important to share this information, because a lot of people mostly misunderstands the Chinese gaming industry. It's not like the Japanese gaming industry or the Korean gaming industry. It's a bit more different, more specific. So, and I think, yeah, it's good to know. So it's good to know, have this information and follow some analysts, reading some articles, and understand why games are like games are today, and what is the future of gaming service. What is the future? What to expect? And actually, we also should know the gaming industry is there to earn money. It's very important, and therefore also the microtransaction and the loot boxes. That's a problem. I don't like them either, but they are there to earn money for the companies. So they always will find ways how to monetize their product. So guys, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. So I thank you very much. I'm leaving it here. So have a great day.